Hey guys, K420 and I'm back. Um, Sorry it's a little late and I'm definitely in no condition to be on camera. I just this whole video gave me the heebie-jeebies and made me not feel good all night and while I was doing it, and then today I just laid around all day putting it off because I didn't want to have to speak those words that I had read again to you guys. But I know I have to because the reason I ended up even getting into this video in the first place is a Fox News quick video or something I had seen on an ancient third world disease that had made a comeback in LA, and it was insane. Like, I wanted to know, like, wait a minute, this is the United States of America and it is 2019. How is this happening? How prevalent is it? How many other diseases have made a comeback? What is going on? And this is what I found. Scary, scary-ish, guys. So, all right. Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to start there. Life-threatening hookworm believed eradicated from the U.S. has resurfaced in Alabama. Yeah, the hookworm found in raw sewage and thought to be eradicated from the U.S. has crawled its way into Alabama, where residents are growing increasingly fearful of the potentially life-threatening parasite. I had someone who came and visited and told me these are conditions they saw in Brazil before Zika, said Catherine Flowers, founder of the Alabama Center for Rural Enterprise. This is a raw sewage pit found in a resident's backyard in Lowndes County, Alabama. Soil is prime real estate for tiny hookworm known as Nectar americanus larvae, and generally associate with warm, humid parts of Southeast Asia or Latin America. It's small enough to burrow into the human skin, causing a sensation known as ground itch. And once the larvae penetrate the skin, they travel through the blood directly to your lungs, usually causing a cough. I'm itching and coughing as we speak. Ah, God. Anyway, um, as they tunnel up your windpipe, they're often swallowed into your stomach. Once attached into the small intestine, they suck blood from their human host just to survive. This puts people at risk for physical and cognitive delays, particularly children, as well as anemia. While the hookworm infection affects 430 million people worldwide, the parasites were thought to be eradicated in the United States. Lingering poverty and poor sanitation have brought it back. Of the 55 stool samples taken in Lowndes County, 34.5 tested positive for hookworm. Jeepers. That's not good. That's definitely 75% or so. Hookworm eggs are found in raw sewage, a sight presumed more common in rural Thailand or on Caribbean beaches than it is in Lowndes County, Alabama. Their untreated wastewater can be found pooled in many residents' backyards. This should not exist here, said Flowers. We have too many resources to not put forth the effort to solve it once and for all. Kind of sounds like another problem we're going to be talking about later, which is Lowndes County kind of shines the spotlight on it like Flint and the lead in the water. But it's a problem of infrastructure and it should have been addressed and has not been addressed. Basically, they've been spending their money on dumb-ish for so long instead of putting money back into the infrastructure in all of these little small counties and urban areas that don't have much tax money as it is or budget money as it is. And they've been putting it in, iPads for the office buildings and the mayor getting a raise as sewage pits are forming in people's backyards. Oh, look, a PVC straight pipe carrying waste directly from a home onto the ground in Farmersville, Lowndes County, Alabama. Residents with septic systems install them, but often run into a problem due to the nature of the black belt soil. Historically, the rich black soil of the region served the American economy well since it was very suited growing cotton. Today, that same soil is a nightmare for waste disposal. It does not absorb water. It creates pools and causes sewage to back up in the pipes. In times of heavy rainfall, many residents can count on a backup of sewage in bathtubs and sinks. Oh, thank God. I'm never going to Alabama. Love you guys, not going. Flowers, a Lowndes County native, has taken the area under her wing with the hope of bringing attention to its troubling issues. Oh, wow, guys. All right, next. Let's see. Will I be itching? What's next, guys? Oh, yes, this one. This is the one that really drew my attention to things, and it's kind of scary because there's homeless people have become, the center stage in places like San Francisco, LA County, New York City, basically any big city. And the populations in the wintertime tend to dwindle on the East Coast and explode on the West because obviously they have the warmer weather. So before you are deciding to head out west for the winter, you might want to listen to this there if you're listening on your Android phone while in your tent. I don't know. Warn somebody. If you know somebody, warn them. Wealthy Los Angeles grapples with outbreak of typhus among its poorest. Concern focuses on homeless population as 64 cases reported a year after hepatitis A infected hundreds. And remember, hepatitis A is a foodborne illness, so that's not something you would expect to see in the homeless population. That comes, directly from food. Los Angeles officials have pledged hundreds of thousands of dollars, creating a dedicated task force to fight an outbreak of typhus, as a city of glittering wealth grapples with a disease linked to intense poverty. We're deploying every available resource to help control and stop this outbreak, said Alex Commie. Well, he's got to be a Democrat, so we're going to call him Alex Commissar. Yeah. Press secretary for LA's mayor, Eric Garcetti. Exactly. If you work for Eric Garcetti, then you're definitely a Democrat. Many of the resources have focused on the city's large homeless population, considered most at risk for contracting this flea-borne illness. The same time last year, California's homeless population was threatened by an outbreak of hepatitis A, another disease associated with impoverished and poor, which is, I don't understand why they say that. It's a foodborne hepatitis. It's foodborne, isn't it? I know C is needles, P is hepatitis B. That's fecal because I got a Hep B shot when I was a CNA, and so yeah, A is foodborne. I guess maybe like poor people would be buying that food, those type of foods, or maybe eating out. They'd be getting a lot of the donations of the fruits and vegetables that weren't bought in the store that could have been contaminated. Yes. Okay, there we go. Anyway, that killed 21 people, infected hundreds. This year, there's been 64 cases of typhus in LA County so far, and about 53 recorded at the same time last year. It says you're on track to surpass the 67 cases diagnosed last year total. A Department of Public Health spokesperson said the outbreak began with 11 cases in downtown LA, 6 which were diagnosed in people who were homeless. Unlike Hep A, the form of typhus typically found in California is not usually fatal and can't be passed from person to person. According to the recent count, 53,000 people are homeless in LA County, many of them in the downtown neighborhood of Skid Row. The streets of Skid Row are lined with tents and sometimes strewn with trash. Chronic sickness and hospitalization is very common among its residents of Skid Row. Okay, guys, we're going to go to the next one because that was bad enough. Because typhus isn't the only thing the homeless population is. Basically, all of these, they are exposed to first and much more aggressively because obviously they don't have places to wash hands. Their food is coming from unsanitary places much of the time, and they have to sleep and rest in places where sometimes people who may not be so with it or just don't care are using the place where they're sleeping tonight was somebody else's bathroom the night before. Okay, so oh, I have to go look at that. I guess apparently Prince Andrew's newest thing is to try to say this photo was faked. Oh, I've been waiting for him to say that for so long. Prince Andrew, you're so screwed. Anywho, keep a lookout for that video. Let's go on to the next one. This is wait, did I want to do this? No. We're going to move this down, guys. Well, it doesn't matter. We're here now. You guys, the whole lead in Flint's water, most of us have heard about that. But I'm sure a lot of us have just assumed, well, of course they've taken care of it. This was in December of 2016. It is now going on, for second week of September. Okay, 2019. No, it's not fixed. So what you need to know most of all is that there could be, and that's what I'm going to show you, is that this isn't the only thing that's waterborne illnesses. How do you comfortably turn your tap water on and drink from it if there isn't some policy out there that states, look, we give you our tax money, you must provide us with clean drinking water. The residents of Flint have thought that for years, guys, and guess what? They will tell you different. So the first and very serious basic thing that we need to watch out for, especially as parents, because it affects our children the most, it causes brain damage, is illnesses and things in their drinking water. I guess I'm at a place in my life right now where I wouldn't give my child water out of the faucet. I wouldn't do the only thing I would do with water out of the faucet is what I had absolutely no choice not to do, which is I'd bathe them in it, which still can cause problems, but usually the combination of drinking, bathing, and, swimming and washing clothes and all that stuff together in that water is what causes the severe cases of lead poisoning and whatnot. What I'm saying is I would try to replace a lot of that water, those things with, dinner and stuff like that. I can boil chugged water. They were doing it or you can boil, I think you can boil basically anything out of water. So if you just boil the water before you use it, then your food should be fine. And if you're drinking bottled water, well, that's a whole nother contaminant we might be talking about someday. Next, Chagas. Oh God, I hate even saying this one. This is a terrible, terrible, and anything that comes from anything that's to do with parasites, bugs, any of that. Not me. Not doing it. I just don't like it. I'm a baby. But I had to research this last night, and I had to figure out oops. There we go. Come on. There we go. Sorry, guys. I had to figure out some of these are that I thought were completely eradicated. I had no idea that there was cases like the bubonic plague, guys. Do you know that there's cases of the plague all over the United States? Yes, I'm not kidding. All right, let's scroll down. Sorry, National Geographic always takes so long to load, and there's no way no matter what I do, I can't have it ready for you. I've tried. I grew up, I guess I could cut it out, screenshot it. Maybe I'll start doing that. Or maybe you guys just like hearing me talk. Who knows? Grew up believing my auntie had almost died because she ate an apple in South America. All right, hold on. I need this drink. According to the family stories, the fruit had been contaminated, or maybe an insect had been crawling on it and had bitten Theodora. However it had happened, my family understood this. A New York doctor had diagnosed my auntie with Chagas disease. It meant my auntie could die. We didn't ask questions. English wasn't our first language. My parents worked in factories. We took care of my auntie as she went in and out of the hospital for decades. When I reached my late 30s, Theodora was rushed to the hospital one night. A week later, she died. She was 59. I thought Chagas was a rare disease, and I was wrong. Named after the brilliant doctor who discovered the disease in 1909, Chagas is more prevalent today in the US than the Zika virus. Let me say that. Restate that. Chagas is more prevalent today in the US than the Zika virus. In the Western Hemisphere, the disease burden of Chagas is almost 8 times worse than malaria. Come on. Some 10,000 people die each year from Chagas. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention estimates about 300,000 people living in the U.S. have the disease. Many grew up in poor communities in South America, Central America, or Mexico. Few know they even have Chagas disease because the parasite that causes it is a cunning microorganism. The parasite can live in the body throughout a person's life without causing any symptoms, but 20 to 30% of infected people will suffer cardiac damage, meaning you can go your whole life and never have a single problem from it. But there's 20 to 30% of people who end up having really, really terrible infected. The infected people have really terrible heart damage. So that's why that picture of the heart was there. All right. So is that it? It's transmitted. There you go. It's transmitted to people by way of triatomine insect called a kissing bug. In the acute stage, people usually can be cured. Unfortunately, less than 1% of infected people are diagnosed or treated. The parasite can live in the person's body throughout a person's life without causing symptoms. I just read that part. Chagas-related heart problems include irregular heartbeats, left ventricle aneurysms, and even heart failure. Just as frightening is this. T. cruzi can cross the placenta, meaning it can get through your amniotic sac and into the placenta and whatnot, and can affect your baby. It's estimated as many as 315 babies a year are born with Chagas in the US. I think of them as the no-name babies because health officials don't know who they are. Pregnant women are not routinely screened for Chagas in the US. It goes on to talk about it. The dog showed no sign of being sick and whatnot because that's like a lot of dogs end up with very similar symptoms and no one knows why. And so anyway, that's a real big one that's almost worse or we need to be more worried about than we need to be worried about getting Zika from mosquitoes. Yes, guys. Yes, I know. This was one of those things that we haven't heard of in all of I know in my entire life, all I ever heard about with this disease was Al Capone, and they basically they found a way to treat it and prevent it now that they figured out what it was, and therefore it wasn't gonna be an issue. Well, syphilis is back, and it's back with a vengeance. Do, 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 do. Alright, come on, stop loading. There we go. Alright. Come on. Oklahoma City. For months, health officials in this socially conservative state capital have been staggered by a fast spreading outbreak of a disease that for nearly 2 decades was considered all but extinguished. Syphilis, the deadly sexually transmitted infection that can lead to blindness, paralysis, dementia, is returning here and around the country. Another consequence of the heroin methamphetamine epidemic, and as users trade sex for drugs. We really don't need to get much further. Everybody knows what, that syphilis causes. Its last stage causes you to go crazy, like Al Capone did. There is 3 stages to syphilis. Says syphilis still afflicts gay, bisexual men who are African American or Hispanic in the Oklahoma and nationwide rate, although syphilis still mostly afflicts and it says in the Oklahoma and nationwide rates are rising among white women and their infants. Nearly 5 times as many babies were born with syphilis than HIV. There's been a shortage of the syphilis antibiotic. It can be cured, but there's a shortage of the antibiotic in made only by Pfizer. Of course, surprise. Oh, I'm doing a whole documentary on Pfizer. Keep your eyes out for that, guys. I'm about, I don't know, I got about 20 minutes left to add to it and then, or to put it together, and I'll be satisfied. So I'm got the last 20 minutes working on it and doing a little editing to it, and it's my first thing I'm going to put out because it's personal to me. So anyway, as measles outbreak fades, New York sets in motion new rules on school vaccinations. Yeah, guys, I I have YouTubers that I know personally who are affected by this and are furious because this measles outbreak that took place in New York City over the last 6 months, 6 to 18 months, has caused people who had a medical exemption, whose children were able to go to school based on a religious medical exemption, those will no longer be allowed, and those children will have to be vaccinated to go to school. I personally have vaccinated all my children, that's not, but I know someone who's struggling to deal with that decision of not, of whether to move to an area that still allows the religious medical exemption, or to stay where they had just set up a home and to immunize the kids and go put them at risk for what he feels he's putting them at risk for. But anyway, next. Yeah, measles, that was a big one. All right. Child in Idaho was treated for the plague, the first human case in the state in 26 years. Yeah, I think I'm going to need to light up for this one. Wow. The plague, you guys. The plague. I hope that there's a day. Now that this was last year. There's no getting around the June 13th. But when you hear this, you hear that this is a normal common thing. You might think about this a little bit more than like I have all night long. A boy in Idaho is recovering after contracting the plague, the first human case in more than 2 decades. Christine Myron, a spokeswoman for the Central Health District Department. I hate when it's loading, it never moves right. It always moves like 5 lines at a time. I'm gonna have to go in my settings and mess with that. All right, Christine Myron, a spokeswoman for the CDHD, said Wednesday that a child who has not been publicly identified is back home in Elmore County and doing well after being treated with antibiotics in the hospital. Child became ill last month, and earlier this week, health authorities received lab confirmation that he had the bubonic plague. The bubonic plague is the most common form and known for causing swollen lymph nodes or buboes, according to the WHO. The pneumonic plague, which is based in the lungs, is the most virulent form of the plague and can be fatal when not diagnosed or treated early on, according to the WHO. The class explanation for the Black Death plague is wrong, scientists. Classic explanation for the Black Death plague is wrong, scientists say. It is still unclear whether the child in Elmore County was exposed to the disease in Idaho or during a recent trip to Oregon, according to the Central District Health Department. It said that in 2015 and 2016, the disease was discovered in ground squirrels in Elmore County, as well as nearby Ada County. No cases have been reported this year. Myron said human plague cases in the state are rare, with the most recent cases reported in 91 and 92. Symptoms of bubonic and pneumonic plague are similar and include headache, fever, chills, extreme weakness. The CDC states that those with the bubonic plague may also experience swollen lymph nodes, and those with the pneumonic plague may experience pneumonia along with chest pain, coughing, and trouble breathing. Oh, wow. All right, let's go down here. This is how you can prevent the plague. Reduce rodent habitat around your home. Wear gloves if you're skinning professionally infected and potentially professionally. Jesus Christ. Potentially, guys, I know, right? Infected animals to prevent contact between your skin and the plague bacteria. Use repellent if you think you could be exposed to rodent fleas during activities like camping, hiking, or working outdoors, and keep fleas off your pets by applying flea control products. Don't allow cats or dogs that roam in endemic areas to sleep with you in your bed. All right, so that's wow. It goes on. 700 cases of mumps, you guys. And that was, I think, definitely just this year. There are 736 cases of mumps reported in the US this year as of April 26, according to the CDC. That's an increase of 310 cases of the illness in the last month. The CDC reported 426 cases as it moves my stuff back up. See what I'm saying? Every time it loads. Because I try to scroll down there. The cases have been reported in 41 states as well as the District of Columbia. Mumps is a vaccine preventable disease. Oh, sorry. They act like that's such an easy thing. Jesus. Sorry. They act like that's such an easy thing, you guys. There. I'm trying to load it, so it's just doing its own thing, I guess. Anyway, they act like that's such an easy thing. Oh, it's a vaccine. But when you have people who have religious or some type of fear of vaccines, you telling them that isn't making it. You have to tell them, what their risk of getting it is without the vaccine. So anyway, it says it's spread through saliva or mucus by coughing, sneezing, talking, and sharing eating utensils or cups. It can be spread when an infected person touches items or surfaces that are touched by someone else. The best way to prevent is vaccine. It's 88% effective. Before the program started, there were 186,000 cases of mumps a year. It's like 10 times more severe symptoms than the chicken pox. I'd say for kids anyway. I had a friend whose daughter had the mumps a couple years ago. Next. Bam, the whooping cough. Children are less protected by the whooping cough vaccine than they once were, warns the CDC. That's another problem with these vaccines, guys, is you finally convince people to get them, and then you turn around and tell them, oh, well, you got to get a second one because they're not as effective as they were once. And so that people start to believe less. There's a lot of people out there that feel that that's a way to hurt children or test certain things on children is through immunizations. And you have to convince them that their chances of bringing up a healthy child, their benefits outweigh the risks. But anyway, look at that little girl's face. Whooping cough has got that one face that we all know, and it's so sad. Oh, anyway. It says CDS researchers say the vaccine used for whooping cough is less effective because the bacteria behind the disease, of course, has mutated, which is why all vaccines eventually will be ineffective and they will have to be tampered with and re-given because that's what's going to happen. Just like right now with what's going on with Ebola, if that disease mutates, we have a lot to worry about over here in the US. That's all I'm saying. Anyhow, it sounds like we'll be hearing about new whooping cough vaccine soon. It says the genomic data we provide will aid research towards improved vaccine development. Right. So it talks about basically whooping cough has undergone genetic changes over time, which happens with any infectious disease. I just don't understand how we weren't planning ahead for that and we didn't have a vaccine in research and development mode being worked on. Anyway, yes, this was last year. However, there's many new cases of tuberculosis. This is April of 2019. It talks about TB in 2018. However, in 2019, we are still seeing many cases of TB coming. TB the TB is being seen a lot with the typhus in the LA County, just so you know that, you guys. Incidences of TB in 2018 were 2.8 cases out of every 100,000 persons, which is the lowest ever reported, right? But a total of 9,029 new cases were reported in 2018, which was a 0.7% decrease. I get it that they're going down, but who knew there was that many cases? And there's these outbursts articles that are going all over where, 600 cases in LA County here. I mean, look at all the states that had reported cases. I don't see how it's a positive if this was a disease that was once almost eradicated. Um, Again, I feel like TB is one of the ones we need to be looking at mutating. It's a disease that is back, and it's been back now for a number of years, and we need to be careful because the diseases that diseases that mutate, if we're not ahead of that curve, then that means people are going to suffer and die before we find out that that's the problem and that a new vaccine needs to be made and given out. All right, guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed my video. Subscribe, like. I really would like to get going on lives again, but YouTube has a whole bunch of new policies. Like, I can't do certain things now unless I have a certain number. I hated pushing subscriptions. You know that. That's not me. But hey, subscribe, share the video on social media and all that, and then I'll actually get an opportunity to go back and go live and do super chats and have my store channel and all that, or excuse me, my channel store and all that stuff again. um I miss you guys, and I'm ready to come back live. I just couldn't do it today, not with this video. I'm sorry. I hope you forgive me, and I hope you have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.